Oh, it's Tuesday afternoon. It's a little after 6. We're a little behind schedule today, but it's All Things Brunswick, and we welcome you to the show. We've had a few technical glitches, which have been worked out thanks to some great people like my partner here, Dan, and our other partner over there, Greta, who has came down here working very, very hard with us tonight, but she's got a throat issue today, so it's difficult for her to talk when she's got no voice. So she's going to be our cheerleader over there.
It's just not
rah, rah, ree, kick him in the knee, rah, rah, ras, kick him in the other knee. And, well, Dan and I try to make this happen on our own. Mary is still on vacation. She's up there in Maine.
I do miss Mary.
Maine misses Mary, too, because she's out there looking for the windmill connection.
So, you're just not going to let that one go.
Never. She'll live that as long as I'm around. But Mary will be back in a couple of weeks. We have an interesting guest coming back in next week. Chad Adams will be with us for a discussion.
I can't wait for that one.
Chad's a knowledgeable man about everything political in this state and probably beyond for the last 20 years or better. So having him here will enhance our discussion with people and make them brighter than even we can be, if that's possible.
I don't know if it's possible to make me any brighter, Bill.
Yeah, that bulb looks like it's burned. I agree. But living with that anyway. Anyway, I'm Bill Moore.
Oh, I was going to say, are you going to let us introduce ourselves? I'm Dan Roman, otherwise known as the IT guy tonight.
And this is All Things Brunswick. And it's, again, we're on and we're very happy with that. Yes. Anyway, we've got a few announcements that need to get out just to keep people informed of what's going on around here. This Saturday from 2 to 4 o'clock in the Elizabethtown Baptist Church in Elizabethtown, North Carolina, from 2 to 4 o'clock again, there's going to be a roundtable discussion dealing with the opioid epidemic and sex trafficking in North Carolina. Now, we have a lot of panel members there that are really interested in the topic and fighting it. Congressman David Rouser will be there. North Carolina Superior Court Judge Jason Desborough will be there. Our District Attorney, John David, will be there, who's also District Attorney in Bladen and Columbus counties, though we kind of keep him as our own. Their Sheriff, Jody Green, will be there. Brian Wilson, who's one of our candidates for judge, he's also a guardian ad litem and candidate for district judge. Preston Hilton is an attorney going to be there. Anchor Initiative program out of Brunswick County, led by Agent John Oliver, is going to be there. And a host of other people, including some parents who've gone through very difficult times with their kids. So it's an interesting time. If you can be there, it's worth listening and maybe getting involved. There's some great stuff out there. We've talked about the Anchor program here before.
Yeah, we have.
And the sheriff in this county in Brunswick does a great job running it. And it is a solution. It is a tool. It is not the tool, but it is a tool that we can help fix things. So if you're available on Saturday from 2 to 4, Elizabethtown Baptist Church, 1800 West Broad Street, Elizabethtown, North Carolina, be there for the roundtable discussion. Beyond that, Lockwood Folly Republican Club is holding a meet and greet on the September 7th at the Oak and Anchor restaurant in Supply. And they've got candidates Randy Thompson, who's also County Commissioner for District 1, Marty Cook, who's District 2, District Court Judge, and running for both positions are Sarah McPherson and Brian Wilson, different seats in the same District 13. And hear from them. Hear what they have to say. Be an informed voter. These are good people, but it's always helpful to go into a voting booth knowing that they're good people and not depending on other people to tell you that. So that's an important fact.
They're both important.
Yes. And then our friend Greta over there, the silent one as we call her today, the Sphinx, is in charge of a great yard sale for the county GOP on the 27th at 10 o'clock from 10 to 1 at our headquarters here. It's our big outreach yard sale and cookout. Amazing deals, nice people, fun times. Meet your county neighbors. Meet Greta and I, which is also a great thing here. You'll get a chance to buy some things that you would need for school and find out a little bit about the party. So if you're available 10 to 1 on the 27th, come on down. And I would give you the Spanish translation of that, but you wouldn't understand it anyway. So
are you going to do a signature table? Because that's what they do at events like this, where celebrities, because you are a celebrity, you are.
Oh, I'm a legend in my own mind.
You could set up a table and pay people to give them their autograph.
I was thinking on a check would work.
Yeah, you have to pay them to accept your autograph.
Well, I was thinking of a kissing booth.
We want to make money, Bill. Not
$5 to kiss me, 10 not to.
100
They look. We could get into the black big time. But anyway,
there you go.
if you want to come along with us, we'd appreciate that. I think we need to spend some time addressing, since we talked last week, the changes in the Mar-a-Lago raid. Would you like to start on that?
There has been so much. We could spend 3 hours on it. We only have an hour. Where to begin? There's so much to talk about. I'll start with, let's talk passports.
Here's a good start.
Because just randomly pulled that one out. Latest information I had was that they did in fact take Mr. Trump's passports.
They actually took two expired ones and one of his international passports.
Okay, so they did take his passports. There was some question on that, I know. And was it you that told me they're looking at returning them in the near future?
They've announced now that since the pressure's now out there, that they're going to return them by Monday.
Which, there's no charges been filed. No judge has written off on confiscating passports. If you look at the media, they're trying to spin it as certain media. I should clarify that. Are trying to spin it as, well, this is proof that they have something and they don't want him to escape. That's literally verbatim what somebody said.
But nowhere in that warrant did I see take passports.
No.
And that's an issue. They overstepped their bounds again.
And it begs the question that we all need to be asking is, what's the true meaning behind all of this? Because if they legitimately had something, it would have been in the warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't. So again, we keep circling back to what's the purpose behind this whole, I'm trying to think of a polite way to put it, but I'll go with fiasco.
That's a better word than I had.
Well, the word I had in my mind starts with F also. Foobar would be another good one, I think. That would be a good one.
That would be good.
We can get away with that one on air.
Sure.
But it speaks to where we are heading as a country, I think. Look, whether you support Trump or not, in my opinion, it's irrelevant. If they were doing this to President Bush, I'll be honest with you, if they were doing something like to President Obama, I'd have an issue with it.
I would too.
They've asked him for documents in the past. That has been put out there and verified by multiple sources.
And he's cooperated, and they've taken 15 boxes out of his headquarters.
Correct. And also, and again, this is conjecture, and I'm just repeating conjecture I heard from news sources, YouTube, that they also told him they did not want some of the documents that now they wanted. So they proposed to him, we want document X. He said, I'll give it to you. The FBI said, no, I don't need it now. And then all of a sudden they're issuing a warrant and executing a search for those documents.
And I was listening to today, again, on the same topic with secret documents or classified documents. Dan Bongino, who used to be a Secret Service agent before we went on the air, also working with the various first ladies and helping them with all their trips around the world as they traveled. And he pointed out, and rightly so, and I hadn't thought about this. For example, if they were taking a first lady on a trip to Ireland, just pick a place, okay? There would be a classified document that shows her itinerary. And it will obviously be classified because people don't want people to know where she's going, how she's going to get there, because she then becomes a target for some extremist group. So it's a classified document. Once the trip is over, it's no longer classified. It has no purpose to be classified.
Right.
Now, realistically, the president has the right to declassify by his word, basically.
Well, it was funny because I was watching something on YouTube earlier today where they were talking about, hypothetically, let's say the president was meeting with, I'll say the head of China. I'm just going to pick that one. And he disclosed to the Chinese premier, we have missiles at X position. That technically would be classified. But as president, he can do that.
That's true.
He could literally tell our potential enemy, we have missiles here.
But his subordinates couldn't.
His subordinates couldn't, but he can.
Yes.
So whatever papers they have, we need to question, what is their motive for it? And there needs to be an investigation. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen now. Let's hope come January,
when they seat the new Congress,
when they seat the new Congress, that first of all, we're in a position to make a change.
which means we have to win the House and or the Senate to put those committees together, people. We need to get out and vote. And again, I'm going to say this 100 times. We need to get out and vote in such strength that whatever cheating that they're going to try to do won't matter. And that's the bottom line.
Well said. I was trying to think of something to add to it, but I really can't. I mean, it's that good. So we'll stick with that. But again, we're hearing a lot of, we're going to do this stuff. It needs to be done. And you and I have talked privately about that. It's time to step up, because for the better part of 2 decades now, in general, we've all sat back and let the left just run wild. And I'm not saying political parties. I'm saying all of us. We are as responsible.
And by coincidence, if we happen to get into this, it will address that exactly. So when we get there, we'll see if we get there.
Yeah.
If we get there.
And I include myself, by the way, because it was funny. I had an interesting, not to go too far off course here, but I had an interesting conversation with someone late last week. And we were talking about PC culture and how, it started really mid to late 90s, but it was fairly innocuous. And we all sat back and go, oh, that's funny, right? And then throughout the 2000s, it became more and more aggressive. And what people forget, and if you think about like 2006 to 2008, they were all over George Bush.
Yes, they were.
They were all over him. And what happened? We all sat back and let it happen.
Yep.
We sat quiet. And then we saw Obama becomes president. It just progressed through that. The Tea Party came around. That created more issues. And it just keeps snowballing. And that's why we're at the point we are now, because we didn't stand up when it was small enough to say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow you to change the definition of words.
It was interesting because pretty much what you're saying, Dan Bongino said on his show this morning.
Well, he's a smart man, so therefore
obviously
I am.
he must have spoke to you.
And I did not talk. See that?
Yeah, but he had said, one of the reasons he thinks they're being so outlandish on the Democratic side is for the last decades, they've come out and they've called Republicans every name they could possibly find, every derogatory term. You're racist, you're homophobic, pick one. They're out there.
They're all.
And what the Republicans would do is they would apologize, even though they weren't there. They would apologize to try to make it settle down and quiet. And again, that goes back to a little bit of what we're talking about later.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, you get a man like President Trump there. And not only does he not apologize, he comes after you.
He does.
And when he does that, your mind is boggled. Unfortunately, instead of them backing off and saying, maybe he's not the one to mess with, they're doubling down. And the more you double down with Trump, the more you're going to get a response. Correct. And that's driving them nuts. It truly is driving them nuts.
And to a lesser extent, we're seeing that with DeSantis now, too.
Yes, I agree.
And to be fair, and you and I have talked about this also, Tulsi Gabbard is another one.
Yes.
Tulsi Gabbard 10 years ago was a far left progressive. She's now considered by the Democratic Party to be alt-right, which is absurd to me. She and I are in agreement on a lot of things. There's a lot of things we're not in agreement on, but I respect the hell out of her. And she is now speaking up, which is why they're targeting her. She took out Camilla in the primaries for president, and she's just continued from that point. So when you look at somebody like her, you look at DeSantis, you look at people who are speaking out, they become the targets. What's interesting about Trump is he don't care.
No, he's been a target all his life.
He's been a celebrity all his life. It goes right off of him, like water off a duck's back. You're not going to upset him.
He's a little thin-skinned sometimes, but
I'm talking about from the perspective. I agree with you there. I'm talking.
You're not going to change his direction, no matter what you say.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah,
you may get under his skin, but you're not going to change what he's doing.
Yeah, you're not going to change his mind. Now, that does not to say he's not open-minded on things, because he's been very vocal on some things. But in general, you're not going to stop him. And that's what the fear is, because they cannot control him. They can't control DeSantis.
Well, again, and we've talked about this before. They were so close after 8 years of Obama.
Mm-hmm.
and they had Hillary coming in to take over. Those 12 years could have made us a socialist state without it.
And that was
over.
their plan.
And it's like being on the, and I've said this before, it's like riding going around and grab the ring on the Ferris wheel, or excuse me, on the
What?
carousel. The carousel. And you're coming around to grab that ring, and all of a sudden, just before you get there, Trump's hand takes it away from you.
I thought I was listening to my wife, Lori, on my other show that I was doing.
Well,
she comes out with things like that.
You're a legend in your own mind. I live with that.
All right. So, yes, we're on the little merry-go-round trying to get the ring.
Yeah, and they go crazy with it. But, I was thinking about, since we talked a little while ago about this, I have a real crazy idea with why some of this is happening. They took more than they should have. They took records they didn't need to take. They took 2 photograph albums. Now,
yes.
Where was that
in the warrant?
In the warrant, and what does the photograph show unless he's handing off to another agent? Here's a secret document. I mean, what purpose have you got for the photograph? I'm almost thinking that they realized that if they put this man in jail, this country is going to have an uproar like you've never seen since the revolution. Okay. And I'm not advocating, again, we're not advocating.
No, we're never right.
But we are talking about the reaction of people if this happens. But I'm wondering, they're not stupid people. They're evil. They're whatever.
They are
they're
not stupid. They are not stupid.
I'm wondering if they left himself an out so that he can't be convicted.
I see what you're saying. So, again, neither one of us is lawyers.
Right.
So we can't speak to the legality of it. We're making assumptions, and we should stay that. But it would be interesting to have a lawyer on. That's a thought for us to talk about that. Because you're right. It could potentially give them an out. Remember, they only need to find a charge to prevent him from running. Is my
But they're also smart enough to know that if the charge is one issue, if he's got to go, if they're going to try and convict him, it's a whole different issue.
Right. But all they have to do to prevent him running in 2024 is file the charge.
Right.
And then stonewall it for 2 years.
Correct.
And then he can't run. And then November, whatever, in 2024, let's say November 10th, I'm just picking a date, at the day after the election, dismiss the charges, and it's done.
And the excuse would be, well, there were too many mistakes made by the people on the ground.
And
they have a back out.
Right.
They have their back out of it.
So again, we don't want to talk conspiracy theories, but that is a good potential reason for doing that. And it's funny because we've talked about this. I do think they want to take him to court. I really do. In some form. The New York State Attorney General is still going after him. It's not just the FBI. New York State is doing their investigation for his real estate holdings and all that. I think
California might be too.
I was going to say there's a couple other things going on. And let's be honest, there is one goal behind all this, to prevent him from running. And it was funny because I was thinking about this the other day and I'm going, be careful what you wish for, because if Trump doesn't run, odds are it's DeSantis. And I, as you know, am a big fan of DeSantis. I think he is Trump with tact. How's that?
Yeah, that's a good way.
That's a good way to put it. They're very similar in their policies.
Well, so similar. You heard what Liz Cheney said, that, now that they're handling Trump, DeSantis is the next big problem because he's too much like Trump.
They're very much like, but DeSantis knows when to tone it down. Trump is a celebrity, has been for his entire life. He knows go big or go home. That's his philosophy. DeSantis knows when to pick your battles, pick them well. I saw him tear a reporter apart the other day, and he did it so politely. And I was like, and that's what got me thinking about it, is be careful what you wish for. Because I don't think DeSantis is beatable, to be honest with you.
And I think if you team him up with somebody like the governor of South Dakota,
Kristi Noem.
Yeah, I think
Tim Scott would be a good one. There are so many quality candidates for VP also.
Yep.
And honestly, either one of those two names we mentioned, I could see them, maybe not right now, but down the road as president. Also.
I agree.
They're good quality.
And the same thing, if Trump decides to run, I could see DeSantis or one of them being his VP.
Yeah. And the other side of it is, we're kind of going off track here, but who do the Democrats have to run right now? AOC?
That's
about their best
Unfortunately, you're right. That's
I
probably.
mean, who else? You're not
You got
going to.
Newsom, who would.
Newsom wouldn't
when-
make.
Our governor thinks he might be eligible.
Oh, let's go there.
Our governor does believe that people out there actually saying that he would be an excellent candidate based on what he hasn't done here.
Governor Milquetoast.
Governor 888.
Yes. By the way,
Yes.
happy holidays. Yesterday, right?
Yes.
Yesterday, on the 888th day, the emergency was lifted in North Carolina. So we are now officially free. Is that
That's
pretty
true.
much it?
That's pretty much it. We've lifted the state of emergency now in this state. So, as a friend of mine who I was talking to this morning said, that's 2.4 years.
Yes, it is.
So it took us 2.4 years to get where we are. And then when you start adding in everything that we were fighting over the years, and what the CDC is saying now is everything they told us wasn't good is now good.
You're really going to get me going on that.
Go ahead.
No.
I mean,
As a small business owner who was non-essential, both as a business owner and a human being, I might add, as I look at the current CDC guidelines, which were updated yesterday, I believe.
Yep.
Where amongst, and I'm paraphrasing their exact wording, but amongst other things, they said that if you are not vaccinated, basically the same considerations as someone who is vaccinated. So
you can mix together. It's not a problem.
You can mix. You don't need to wear masks. Travel unlimited. You don't have to worry about planes and all that stuff. Doesn't matter whether
if you're in Canada.
Huh?
Trust me, except if
Talking
you're in
US,
Canada.
my friend.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't speak for other nations because I honestly don't know. But all of that went away. Now, what would suddenly have caused that? Any ideas?
Could it be November 8th?
I could be.
You know,
Because honestly, look, the date has been out there for some
a year,
time, more than a year. Although I still like to bring up that video of President Biden sitting there going, if you get vaccinated, you cannot get COVID and you cannot spread COVID, for which I lost multiple social media accounts for saying, but you can. And I'm not afraid to speak up on that. But you look at that a year plus ago, you look where we're at now, there's only one reason why it suddenly changed. Because the science and data is exactly
has never changed.
It's exactly the same.
But maybe they're reading it.
That was good. I'll give you that one. Ping. What's one for you? The question is who's reading it, right?
And why they're reading it and why they're
well, we know
interpreting
why
it.
they're,
But anyway, something to consider. But we have to pay a few bills now. Believe me, we've reached that point already.
Wow.
We've been on a roll. So anyway,
just call us butter. We're on a roll.
Oh, we're good. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. All Things Brunswick.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
The Boiling Spring Lakes Motel, located at 2 North Shore, is a peaceful and convenient place to stay. Newly renovated rooms with a comfortable back porch welcomes everyone. Discount rates are available to those who might need more time. Close to the beach, everything you need for a fun vacation. Call Stephanie at 910-845-2893. Boiling Spring Lakes Motel. Folks, you must visit Angie's Fresh Produce. 4447 Long Beach Road, Southport. Beautiful fresh produce at a great price. Angie's has just about every vegetable you want. In-store shopping and pickup, and all wheelchair accessible. Call Angie's Fresh Produce at 910-477-9068.
Well, I guess we're back.
I
Oh,
guess
the music. We're
Wait
back.
for the music, my friend. 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back to All Things Brunswick. Now that I've had my countdown, I learned 3, 2, 1 today. So that's very good.
Well, you were in the Army.
But,
Oh, I said that publicly.
oh, yes, you did.
I'm kidding. We love the Army.
You better love the Army.
We love the Marines more, but we love the Army.
Well, that's okay. I would, because I become a Marine. Then they found out my parents are married, so I couldn't get in there. Oh, I'll pay for that later.
I am surrounded by our people from the Army here, 2 like colonels, no less.
Right. Because as we describe things, there are just 2 branches, Army and support. So that's a.
Well,
you heard that coming there.
I heard that too. Yeah. Continue on, my friend.
All right. Anyway, we're back to the show again, and we're talking things around here going on in the world. We've talked about 888 days for our governor. We've talked about the latest on monkey pox and everything else going on. And by the way,
Did we?
well, yeah, well, we're getting there because I'm going to go a little bit
Did you know
different
you
now.
can't call it that anymore?
Yeah, I know, because it
you
insulted
hear-
monkeys.
I was like, wait a minute, what?
I heard that.
I was like, why can't we call it? And I still haven't heard the logic behind why. Do you know why?
Because somehow it's insulting monkeys who are evidently listening to the shows. And they're,
So
well, I think I understand why. 'cause
Zaius from Planet of the Apes would be offended by that.
I think I understand why. Because again, what do you call a group of baboons?
A Congress.
A Congress. So our Congress would be offended. So there you go.
it is.
Of that whole issue right there. So anyway, we didn't mean that to you, Congressman Rouser. We still love you. But anyway, oh God, I'm in more trouble tonight.
Oh
It's-
boy,
We're going to get killed.
today.
Yeah, God help us. Anyway, while we were talking about all this good stuff, I did some work a couple of years ago on a presentation called "Dealing with Liberals," which was kind of a fun thing put together. Dr. Tim Dougherty put a book together, and I've been to a couple of his presentations, and it's a lot of fun. But it kind of explains the liberal mind.
They have.
There's an assumption. Yeah, I was just going there. There's an assumption there. Okay. And he starts out with some basic assumptions. 20% of our country is hardcore liberal. I mean, ultra left. 20% of our nation.
I think that's a fair number.
He assumes that 40% of our country is conservative or conservative leaning.
So you're talking right-ish all the way to
far
ultra right. Okay.
The whole distance. And that leaves 40% he calls either independent, uninformed, or misinformed, which is an interesting topic.
Well,
Anyway,
I would disagree with him on that because the uninformed and misinformed I would put on the far left. But
Well,
I digress.
but do you have unaffiliated that lean left?
You do, but at least they're somewhat open-minded.
And what he basically says, and again, some of this is tongue in cheek, but it's a lot of fun to play with. Our basic misunderstandings on our side of it is that liberals do like us.
No,
and they have the same goals as we do, just there. And that's a problem for our side because the reality is they don't like us.
they hate us.
And their goals are very different
No.
than what we want. And
Let me ask you this.
yes, sir.
Is he because liberal can mean a lot of things. John F. Kennedy was liberal. LBJ was liberal. I would classify them now. Well, not me. I would say the liberals, the current liberals, would classify them as far right wingers. Again, referencing Tulsi Gabbard that we mentioned earlier. That they're still liberal. John F. Kennedy was liberal. He was a liberal Democrat, but he was more towards, I'll call it left-leaning, left center.
If John F. Kennedy was alive today, he would be a right-leaning.
He would be
Republican.
considered an absolute right wing.
Absolutely.
And again, I referenced Tulsi Gabbard, but there are others out there that are referenced that way as well. So when you say liberal, how was he defining that?
I think he's defining it and updating it from this is about a 10-year-old
Okay.
book he read.
So,
So taking it to today, I would say the liberal would probably fit far left as a better
yeah,
definition.
I call it woke.
The woke. Okay.
The woke.
That'll work.
Because when you use that 20% number, that is about, and I've seen research on it also, that is about what they consider the quote woke people.
The hardcore.
The hardcore, and they absolutely, I call them a cult now. I honest to God believe they're in a cult, because you cannot reason with someone like that. If you say this, the sky is blue and grass is green, they will hand you 4 studies saying that, the grass is lavender and the sky is flaming red. I don't know. You cannot reason with people like that who don't deal in facts. They deal strictly in feelings.
I agree. An interesting statement, and I kind of like this one. All babies are born far left or liberal, depending which term we're going to use today.
Okay.
They are helpless, dependent on others, and do not respect the rights of anybody. And that is, you think of a baby, that is 100% correct.
Just nailed it. Yeah.
They're perfectly. He says conservatives grew up.
They entered the real world.
Yeah, they came out of there. There's that old
That's
line
a great
coming out
one.
of,
That I like that one.
they come out of that old line coming out of college that if you're not graduating college as a liberal, you don't have a brain if you haven't become a conservative by 40. So
It's right around 35, 40 that
Yeah.
you start changing. Yeah.
Okay. Some of the things that he tells us we need to understand and set this down. Liberals do not like us.
Agreed.
And that's number one. You can't compromise with a liberal, and we try to do that all the time,
Agreed.
and that's a problem. Nor can you reason with a liberal.
Agreed.
When you are trying to talk facts versus feelings, it won't work.
You cannot argue with that.
No, and that's an issue, and we need to understand
You
that.
can't debate it no matter what.
Okay. They gave us some history as this came around. After the Russian Revolution, Western liberal socialists realized you couldn't take over Western nations by violent, bloody revolutions. Think about it. We started unionization at that point, which was leftist. And
still is for the most part.
they could not take the country over that way because the rank and file, even though the leadership were there, the rank and file was still red-blooded Americans, and that wasn't going to happen.
Mhm.
And we even see it in elections today. So what they decided to do was take the long road and change Western culture. And to do that, their first goal was to take over education.
And they succeeded
And-
magnificently at that.
Right. By taking over education, and think about what I'm going to say, they allowed them to take over the media, nonprofit organizations, entertainment, and bureaucracies.
100% correct.
And you think about that, by training the teachers in those areas, they now train the next people going out to do what they want them to do. This is how they're spreading their message out there. And that would ultimately lead to a government takeover with high regulation of lives and businesses.
Which is pretty much where we're at now.
If you want to take this is a good 10 years old, but before a lot of this stuff happened. But think about these things. Liberal far left tactics. Let's just call it far left right now,
Okay.
because we will agree to that. Rule by ruckus.
2020 riots, enough said.
Antifa.
Antifa.
Black Lives Matter. Pick them. They're doing that. Politicize everything.
That's not happening now, is it?
Absolutely. Divide and conquer.
No.
They put everybody in their own little box, try to play one against the other one, and they do that very well. And another one they try to do, they play the victim game.
I'm not saying anything more. Keep going.
I'm doing 100% on this so far, right?
If I were going to bet my mortgage, I would be betting on this list.
They will not debate. They would rather attack because they can't win a
Personally
debate.
attack.
Because they will come after attack because that's a feeling.
Correct.
And that's exactly what they're doing.
And
they use words for effect, not for communication.
Yes. So that would be, for example, the headlines you see on social media. And then you go into the meat of the story and it's completely different. That's exactly an example of that.
Yeah, and what they're doing when they put something out there, they're aiming for that
They read the headlines and they don't
go down to read what's
Right.
going on underneath
and
it.
they know that.
Their true agenda is to lie and get what they want, which is a one world government. And one of the things that they're famous for is shifting the blame to others. You like this one? Huh?
I'm just like, how old is this?
10 years old.
And he probably started writing it a couple of years
Yeah.
before that. So when you think about it, let's ballpark it somewhere around 2010. And here we are.
Yeah, and and how many times have we said in conversation that the first thing you do with the ultra left people is if they're saying you did it, that means they've already done it.
They project.
Right. So they're projecting that blame to somebody else. The shit times. And the Republicans, unfortunately, historically have been blamed for things they didn't do, and they have not fought back before Trump.
No, they've begged for forgiveness for things when they haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
Good point.
Okay. Now, the question is, why do we let them get away with this? And that's an interesting point. Okay. We let them dominate because we were brought up in homes where respect and the desire for peaceful atmospheres was taught and ingrained in our behaviors. Mom and dad wanted peace. Now,
As the father of 6, that's 100%.
and I will tell you that mom and dad wanted peace, and mom and dad really didn't care about fairness. They wanted peace. If the younger brother took something from the older brother, and the younger brother was crying when we tried to take it back, it was with it for now.
Yep.
We'll deal with it later.
Yep.
We want peace, not what's right. So that they play on that. Okay. Liberals will count, or the far left will count on the fact that we will give in and compromise to keep things quiet, to keep the peace.
They are masters at manipulating that, which is why you see them take extreme positions, knowing that they will then, quotes, compromise and get what they really wanted. And I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, there's a big push to get pedophiles accepted as just having a few issues.
Right.
So that allows them to push that farther left because they'll come off of that position to compromise. They're geniuses, to be honest with you, at it.
He in his writings, reality is that a small number of people who are willing to create conflict will always dominate those people who want peace.
Proven throughout history, time
Absolutely
and time
correct.
and time again.
You know, we even in Russia, 10% of the people are communists. They're dominating 90% of that country.
China right now.
China's the same way. You're right. So that's something we need to work on. You know, we need to change our direction. Now, here's an interesting fact. When a far left person attacks you and calls you a racist, what they're really saying is, you're not making me happy and I hate you.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and they don't want to discuss it. I want this now. You're not making me happy and I hate you because you won't give it to me.
The only way they can shut down the argument in their mind, because they can't argue with reason. Look, I have no problem with someone disagreeing with me. Give me facts, give me reason. I've had my mind changed by people that I don't agree with. But the minute they go personal, I'm done. And I deal with it pretty much every day at this point.
And the far left, as he goes forward, says they have basically 3 philosophies. If you like what I'm doing, you're good.
True.
If you don't like what I'm doing, you're bad.
Very true.
And do not thwart my will. I want what I want and don't get in my way.
We have the House, the Senate, and the presidency all.
You know, and if you think about when Trump was elected and sworn in, started burning everything around the country, D.C., the West Coast, you know, they didn't win. So therefore, they're going to act up. They're not going to accept that and talk about it.
Not only did they not win, their exalted hero, the anointed one who was supposed to win, did not win, which just took it to a whole new level.
True. This is they just there's absolute truth, but we just need change.
Mm-hmm.
Daily truth is relative. They have entitlement, and they're entitled to power. And
yeah, I'm biting my tongue on something right now. Let's move on
before I get in more trouble. Okay. Whereas the conservative side of the house is based on Judeo-Christian beliefs. They believe in personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
They believe in independence, and unfortunately, or fortunately, they also believe in peace.
Which is why, let's go back to 2020. If you circle back, well, let's start with the conservative side. We want the peace. We don't want riots. They wanted them because their beliefs justify it. Our beliefs are, look, there's better ways to get your point across rather than beating up an old man or burning down buildings.
Yep.
That's in a nutshell what it is.
Right. And they also philosophically, President Obama indicated this. Remember when he was fighting for the full takeover of medicine by the government?
Mm-hmm.
And he got a little bit of it, and he turned around to his base and said, listen, we got 20% of what we wanted. In a few years, we'll add another 10%, and eventually we'll get where we want to be. But we started down that road. Whereas the conservative side of the house,
we hear you.
and we attend to a piece.
Yes.
If I give you 20%, will you stop?
Yes.
And then we think it's over.
And it's
And
not.
the reality is that, and I hate to make this kind of an equation with it, but isn't that exactly what they did when in World War II, they gave them Poland?
Well,
They gave
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia, Poland. And I promise I won't do
Yep.
it.
Yeah, Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland, Poland. For that matter, France, they were still trying to negotiate out of it. You can never appease them.
No. And that's something we have to learn.
And they know we're not going to appease them. Or that we're going to try and appease them.
Now, how do we as conservatives need to respond?
That's the big question.
We need 3 steps we have to do in every conversation with them. We need to, first of all, recognize where they're really going, their direction. Okay. Then we have to redefine the discussion
with them.
Good
luck.
And then refocus that discussion.
Good luck.
Okay. But again, many times, it's almost like you've seen those tables where they set up and they say, prove me.
Yes, I love those.
Yeah, and the reality is not the person that's arguing with you, you're never going to change their mind, but it's the people around listening that's your audience.
Well, I mean, let's look at, I'm just picking this out of thin air, but you look at the debate now over what's a man, what's a woman. They don't want to talk about science. Their whole thing is abstract theories. And that's where they go with it. And in their mind, that's legitimate. Okay. How do you have a discussion with someone like that? I don't think you can. Because if they can't look at what is a man, what is a woman? Ben Shapiro talked about this. And he said, in all mammalian, the whole genus, there is a male and a female, and they have to come together to reproduce. That is science. There is no... but now we're saying men can get pregnant.
I can't even respond to that.
I'm asking you, how do you
deal with that?
Redefine, what was it? Redefine the discussion.
Recognize, redefine,
that
and refocus.
Actually believes that a man can get pregnant. We're not talking about transgender here. We're talking about science right now. They actually believe that you or I can get pregnant. I've had people tell me that.
Yeah, but again, there are some strange on the far end that can believe that stuff. The
about
majority
20% of the country.
They're using it for another purpose.
Agreed.
Agreed. That's an old magician trick. Well, while you're looking at this hand, be careful what the other hand's doing.
I agree with you, but I also disagree with you. So I agree with you exactly what you're saying. They're trying to play fast and loose. The problem, as I see it, is the people that know what they're doing and are playing that game are one subset. There is an entire subset of people bought into this and believe it to their very core that, X, Y, and XX chromosomes are irrelevant. And there is no reasoning with someone like that. That's why I use the word cult. And I know there's a negative connotation to that, and I intend that, and I'll stand by that. You cannot reason with people like that. Yet, they're the ones driving everything right now.
Yeah, but what's going on right now is they're getting in a conversation like you are right now with an audience.
Agreed.
And that audience is being affected by what's being said.
Agreed. Yeah.
Now, the game plan there is we need to challenge what's being said, redirect what's being said into an area that shouldn't be talked about. Let's take budget. Something very simple like the budget.
Okay.
Now, the Democrats truly believe that what they say, that the more money they spend, from the budget, the better inflation will become, et cetera, et cetera. We have zero inflation when it stays 8.5 for two months in a row, and 8.5 is zero. I understand how they got there.
The economy's doing great.
But what you need to do is you have to understand what they're trying to say. They are trying to say, the direction is we're trying to deflect the reality of what's going on to something else. We need to refocus it by saying, like, do you not agree that budget cuts are not, budget cuts would save the money? And let's take a look at the reality. What did the CBO say? when they scored, and put facts in front of people. Now, again, if it's me arguing with a far leftist,
You're not going to get anywhere. I get it.
But it's the people all around listening. It's the people on television that are watching these debates that are going on, and they're watching us lose because we're not countering it and we're not turning it into a direction that works for us. Now, Trump is superb at that.
Absolutely. And that's why they hate him. That's why they hate him.
He will turn it around. He will put it in a direction and reframe it in a way that people will understand and put them in a direction which you really need to discuss. This men can have babies is just a distraction. But by dealing with it, there's something else going on. We need to refocus that discussion.
It's absolutely
and get it to something that's real.
It circles back to the ultimate goal, which is one world domination.
True. Okay. Remember, and one of the things that Republicans are now arguing, or conservatives, we can't compromise with them. No, that's not true. We can compromise with people as long as you gain ground and don't lose ground.
I would agree with that.
As long as what you're compromising, you're giving people, you're not losing anything, and you're picking up a little bit of what you want, like the Democrats do when they do things, like they did with healthcare. They got 20 or 30% of what they wanted. Mm-hmm. They gave the Republicans a little bit of something that didn't affect anything up front.
Right.
But they walked away from that compromise because remember, both sides have to win in a compromise for it to work. Now, how effective that win long term is a good compromise.
Yeah,
Right. And again, what I talked before, remember, settling for little pieces, eventually you get the whole cake.
And right now they have the whole cake.
That's true.
So the question is how do we start pulling back some of that ground?
We start pulling that ground by and saying, yes, if you want to negotiate on something, let's negotiate, but we negotiate from the strength part. And we say, if you want this little piece,
mm-hmm.
I'll give you that little piece. It doesn't matter to me, but I want X, Y, and Z. And if they're willing to give you that, and maybe you want the whole alphabet, but you'll take X, Y, and Z right now.
I get it. But you're talking rationally. You and I can understand that. Most of our audience can understand that. But there is that 20%.
But you're aiming at that 40%.
I get it. You've
got the 40 on your side. You're looking at that middle unaffiliated. 40. You're looking for that middle unaffiliated.
And that's the question.
And that's how you have to get them. You have to win them over.
Though, I'm great with you. Keep in mind that 40% tends to float.
Oh, sure.
I think right now, absolutely, they're seeing the light. How's that? 4 years from now, who knows? 8 years from now, who knows? 12 years. The way I'm looking at this is most people are focused on the election this year in 2024. We need to look past that. We need to be looking 2030, 34, 38. Is that when their elections are? I don't know.
Every 4 years.
I know, but
2 years for Congress, 4 years for president.
It'd be 28, 32, 36. Sorry. Because the reality is we're trying to counter what's literally been a 50-year plan.
Oh, I agree. But, we need to also remember that most voters vote status of their life is. That's a reality.
Oh, exactly right. Yeah, that's my point.
Right now, they're being destroyed. I mean, someone put out a note that my wife was telling me about before, that there was some survey out there that in some of the bigger states, some of the more expensive states,
mm-hmm.
you've gone up $700 a month in your cost to survive.
Oh, I've seen ranges from 3 to over 1,000. So that makes sense. Yeah, 700 is right in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And so you're looking at that. So that person is saying that what I could do before, I can't do now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having trouble feeding my family. I'm having trouble getting to work. I'm having trouble paying the electric bill. That's what they're going to vote on. Who's going to fix that?
But
now,
here's the thing, though. Let's use that as a current example. Gas prices are coming down. So already you're starting to see, well, maybe the economy is getting better. So we need to keep pushing, going, yes, gas is now $4 a gallon.
But it's still up.
It's up from $2 a gallon.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we need to say.
Yeah, whereas the media is spinning that gas is down $1. True, they're not lying.
Nope.
But it's still up $2 from
a year ago.
A year and a half ago. Right.
But we have to also remember why liberals don't fight among each other, or the far left, on this. And the way Dr. Dougherty put it, the far left is like a vending machine. Okay. And it's an interesting point. Every person in that machine has something different You go to that machine and you're going to buy something different than the person next to you, but there's something there you want.
Okay.
Now, there's no need for conflict if I want this and you want that, and we both agree that we'll both take our turn on the machine.
Yep.
Okay. They will support the vending machine for everybody because what I want is there. If it's going to be, if it could be a social program, it could be an economic program, whatever they want, it's on that machine.
Right. It's
And
in
as
the
long
machine.
as what I want is in that machine, that candy bar I want is there, it doesn't matter what else is there, and I'll support the vending machine. Okay. On the other hand, as a conservative, we need to get over the fact that we will say, I may want something in there, but the rest of that food's bad. It's not good for you.
You're gonna bring out the trainer in me right now, right?
There you go. And the rest of
that
that food
apple's good, but all those Snickers bars,
we just can't have that, and we can't have those
right.
Twinkies or whatever else they have. An issue for us. But as we move along on that, we need to be thinking that way. We need to be thinking on the fact that we have to challenge, we have to be not afraid of conflict, and
There's the big one.
And we need to say that we're not going to be at peace for a while. We're going to be in conflict.
We need to stop being afraid of being canceled.
I agree.
I speak up all the time. I cannot tell you the number of times I've had people try and cancel me. I'm still here. Has it affected me at times? Yes. More emotionally than anything. Because when you got and I mean a group of people, Deborah Butler, I'm talking to you, who sicked her mob on me. When it happened, I got big shoulders, but I'm not going to lie. I mean, she attacked me. She put a blatant lie out there on Facebook. They attacked me. They tried to cancel me. I'm still here, but right? A few sleepless nights. But if I didn't continue to speak up, they win.
Exactly.
That's my viewpoint. We have to be willing to take the hits. Rocky, I use this analogy. He took a beating from Apollo Creed, but he won in the end because he took that beating.
Took the beating twice.
But if he had not, he could have sit there and go, no mas. It wasn't him, but you know what I mean. And walked away. He would not have won. You have to take the shots. And yes, I get it. It's not easy sometimes. But you have to be willing to do that, and you need to get out and vote. Because that's ultimately where your power is.
I think right now we need to pay some bills and
we're
wrap this up already.
Yeah, wow.
So we're getting close. So anyway, let's pay a few bills and we'll be back to see what time we have left to play with. Again. This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
The Boiling Spring Lakes Motel, located at 2 North Shore, is a peaceful and convenient place to stay. Newly renovated rooms with a comfortable back porch welcomes everyone. Discount rates are available to those who might need more time. Close to the beach, everything you need for a fun vacation. Call Stephanie at 910-845-2893. Boiling Spring Lakes Motel.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, located at 8210 River Road, Southport, is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the Tackle Box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair, with certified technicians in all engines and fiberglass specialists. The Tackle Box offers fresh local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport. Folks, you must visit Angie's Fresh Produce, 4447 Long Beach Road, Southport. Beautiful fresh produce at a great price. Angie's has just about every vegetable you want. In-store shopping and pickup, and all wheelchair accessible. Call Angie's Fresh Produce at 910-477-9068.
We're having fun tonight.
Yeah, we are. We had a good one.
All right.
You know,
We're on.
we're back on air again with about a minute or so left of All Things Brunswick. This hour went quickly again.
It flew by. I talked a lot, though.
Well, that's because you have such wisdom to impart on the mere mortals of this country.
I feel like I cut you out.
Now, speaking on that, would you like to do a little bit about your new show? I think is doing very well.
Yes, it's doing outstanding, actually. Living Fit After 50, it is not political in any way, shape, or form. In fact, we purposely avoid it. But this week, we have a really good guest coming on. His name is Greg Justice. He is in the National Fitness Hall of Fame. He has written at least a dozen books that I know of, but he's going to be talking about his latest book, which is The Legacy of Jack LaLanne. He's going to be talking about that. He's going to be talking about working out after the age of 50, in his case, over 60, and how he's training to become a ninja warrior, the American ninja.
Is he really?
He really is.
Oh.
Greg is a fantastic man. He's he is the nicest man I've ever met, actually, to be honest with you. Really good show.
Excuse me.
Greg is a fantastic man. So it's going to be a really good show. Check it out. We are live Friday at 1. There's multiple replays during the week on YouTube, Facebook, and lots of other fun places.
And come back here next Tuesday night with Chad Adams as our guest.
He's our guest, and we are going to be rescheduling our guest for this week, hopefully in a couple weeks.
And we apologize to that guest who couldn't be here. And we'll get him back in 2 weeks on our show, and he should add a lot to our show to talk about. So
Mary's coming back in
2 weeks.
2 weeks, correct?
So Mary will be back, and hopefully Greta's voice will be back for next week. And so she can come up here with Chad and dazzle him with her brilliance.
Greta takes the thorn out of my paw, and then, or she did earlier today, and then Mary can be the soothing the savage beast.
Mary can put it back in. All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
You're tuned in to the Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina's premier internet station for news and talk radio programming. Find us online at bigtalker.com.